And we are back live for PB betting, college football week 4 recap. It was another crazy week of college football here with Mr. Paisley. Paisley, how are we doing this week?
Good, doing good. Case Notre Dame finally got their first win of the season, so shout out them.
Big
It's
win.
about time, and the Walt did pretty well this weekend. Had a nice week myself for the page here. Got a couple locks home for the people at home watching, so it was a good week overall. We'll dive into it with the recap here, and a lot of fun games this week, and then we will have the big preview for next week coming up here with a lot of big games coming on the 27th. So fun stuff here, exciting time here in September. But how are you doing, sir?
Yeah, no, I'm doing good. I did not have as good of a week as you did though here on the page. Another pretty strong week by yourself. 14 wins, 9 losses, 1 push on your slate, and I only had 4 wins, 8 losses, 1 push, so 4, 8, and 1. On the week overall, we are 72, 71, and 4, so just about 500, but definitely, Mr. Paisley, you're doing most of the work here early on with a, let's see, you got about a 54% win percentage. I have 44. So not, not nothing out of the realm here. We still have a lot of weeks to go. Could definitely bounce back. And as a page, we're still at least above 50%. Thankfully for your last 2 weeks, really been keeping us afloat there. The one highlight is we are 3-0 this week on the locks. That was nice. You had North Texas to cover. You also had Arizona State with the 2.5, and then I had Michigan State with 18.5 last night. I'm not sure if anybody watched that game through. I caught most of it, but towards the end, I really wasn't paying attention, and I found out at 4 o'clock in the morning that they covered. So that was a really nice feeling early in the morning or late at night, however you want to look at it. So ups and downs. Your card definitely looks really green. We had a couple things right. We got TCU. We both had TCU, which was one of our favorites. Probably could have locked that one. I did like it, but that was a nice hit. We also got screwed on the Auburn play a little bit there at the end with the safety. Both had Auburn, so that would have helped our numbers a little bit. That safety to push. Thank God we didn't lose it completely. At least it's a push, whatever, but still not great. And then I also had Syracuse, Maryland. We'll get to. We don't really have to get to Maryland, but I did want to give them a shout out. Have them with the 9.5. They look great against Wisconsin. I'm not sure how really competitive they're going to be, getting into the Big Ten, but nonetheless, huge win for them. And I actually looked at their schedule a little bit. It's pretty favorable in the Big Ten. They avoid a lot of the top, ranked teams. They don't play Penn State at all. I think they also either only have one of Ohio State and Oregon, so they really only have like one auto L there. So that's going to be fun to watch. But that was really my only highlights of the week on my wins. The rest were just, I know we were both on Illinois. We'll get to that game. That was just a massacre.
Yep.
But yeah, it was, I'd say up and down week, Paisley, but you did a pretty good job there keeping us afloat here above 50%.
Thanks, sir. Yeah, it's a team effort. There's going to be weeks where I struggle and you're pulling the weight, so it'll come back around. But that Syracuse call, Case, really nice call there. I did not see that one. Clemson looking terrible. We'll get to that. And covering that game easily, getting the win outright. And yeah, the Michigan State game, that's why I love college football, because great games all throughout the day. And then you have a game starting at 11 p.m. Eastern time. Great game all the way to 1 a.m. I stayed up till halftime. It was back and forth. Michigan State was holding their own, and I felt good about the locks covering there at the end of the night. But yeah, it's good when the locks hit. Was really strong in North Texas. They had a big lead, then blew it, and then went to overtime, covered in overtime. Arizona State, same thing, very similar game. Had a nice lead, kind of let it slip at the end, and then got a nice field goal at the end there. That was a fun game too. Just a lot of exciting games back and forth. So it was really fun, especially when you're winning some of these games. Had a couple overs that hit, which are always nice to see. Temple had a crazy cover. That was definitely some good fortune on my side. Nobody's probably watching that game, but they were floating around the number 23.5, and then they got a touchdown with 2 seconds left in the game on third down and goal from the 2 to cover that number. So love all those, and they bounce in your favor. So it was a fun one all around. It was a great game. Notre Dame's offense looks really good. Speaking on that Purdue game, Purdue almost covered it backdoor there. But that offense might be top 5 in the country. It's crazy that they're 1-2 to start the year, but that offense looks electric. But the defense still has a lot of problems, so it will be a fun one in Arkansas this week. And Miami of Ohio, too, just want to shout that one. That's a loss on my end. They lost by 3. They were up by 14 with like 4 or 5 minutes left in the game and blew that one to UNLV. So some crazy stuff was going on in college football this week. Sometimes we were on the right side, other times we weren't. So frustrating day, but we did have some more wins and losses. So always got to.
Yeah.
That's what we always preach with the best of the number with Auburn. And if you didn't get that 7, if you had 6.5, that's a bad beat there at the end, getting that safety with about 20 seconds left. So always shop around for the best number and get those key numbers at 3, 7, 10, 14. That's why they're important for weird shit like this at the end of games.
Yeah, no, perfectly said. If you're new to the show too, we appreciate all the listeners. Feel free to give us a subscription here on YouTube. If you're listening or watching, follow us on Twitter. Paisley and I, we release every Saturday morning. We have our whole entire college football slate posted here on just Twitter. And then, of course, we give our picks and we analyze the games as well on the podcast, as well as NFL too. We do NFL as well. We get the picks up every Sunday morning. So we appreciate all that. But yeah, Paisley, really a couple just notes from week 4. I don't know how Clemson got so bad.
Yeah. It's almost like Florida State level. Like they're not even competing. They're just getting blown out. Now Syracuse isn't horrendous, but they are not good in the ACC and they controlled that whole game. So yeah, be on the lookout for a Florida State type of season here from Clemson because it is looking the locker room looks lost. Dabo looks like he has no idea what he's doing. So keep your eye on Clemson. This could be going bad to worse, honestly.
Yeah, and I know a couple Clemson fans, and it's kind of split. It seems so the mood that I'm getting right now is almost like not even surprised, like just almost like an anger of like, didn't fix the issues from last year, saw this potentially, even though you had all the national media hype and around Cade Klubnik, it seems like there's something that just a disappointment, but just more like an anger or like not even like almost like just they're just not even shocked. I don't know exactly what it is, but bringing back all that production, I don't fully understand it. Their defense should be way better. Their offense should be their highlight. They should be able to be scoring. Mm-hmm. I mean, I will with all those production coming back and Cade Klubnik, and he just has looked bad. And like your point, we saw the first couple of weeks, we know they were going to be a little bit down. But I had to bring it up again. Not only, do you not cover, you lose outright to Syracuse, and really a game that Syracuse just controlled. I mean, they dominated that game for at least pretty much all 4 quarters. Clemson got a little run here and there, but just an absolute stunning result there. And if you can't beat Syracuse, there could be a lot of losses. Like good comparison with Florida State, they could really pile up like really like a 6, 7, maybe 8 loss season at this point. I mean, I don't want to get crazy, but if you can't beat Syracuse, there's a lot of teams that are better than Syracuse on that remaining schedule. So we'll see how they respond. But yeah, that was definitely just the biggest stun really of the week. I did not think they would lose this game.
Yeah, and that's after the Troy game that was not that great. And Troy just lost by 2-3 touchdowns to a group of 5. Like Troy's not a good team either. So it's the very worrisome. And it's not just how you lost, it's how you lose too. And we talked about this after Alabama lost to Florida State week 1, but Case, they can't stop the run. They're giving up 150, 200 yards on the ground to these bad running teams. Like, what are you going to do when you face a really good team? And, it's really tough. You thought they'd bounce back after that Georgia Tech close loss, but it's both sides. Like you said, the defense is looking bad. They're getting gashed up the middle of the run. And offensively, Klubnik I don't know if he doesn't have anywhere to throw, if he's just not confident and, throwing in tight windows. They're not just trying to run the ball. They just don't like their running backs. Like, there's problems all over this team. It's not like it's just like one person or one side of the ball or one, offensive, defensive line. It's like the whole team. So this was pretty shocking to lose by 14 plus to a not that great Syracuse team at home. Just very embarrassing.
Yeah, we'll definitely be watching them all season, see how they respond. And then another quick note, North Carolina also just absolutely beat down 4 quarters, did not look good against Central Florida. We were both on UNC. That was one of the few that you got wrong and one of the many that I did. But yeah, UNC, not sure what's going on there. I mean, we knew they'd be Bill Belichick first year, they brought in 70 guys. I don't want to overreact. This isn't like anything like North Carolina wasn't supposed to be a top, 25 team or anything, but just kind of this spot, UCF also not a great team. This one just kind of caught me by surprise. North Carolina just also maybe on a 3-4 win type of season.
Yeah, that's this. It just kept taking UCF money. It went up over 7. And I was like, I just don't get it. And sometimes it makes sense though when you see the final score. I just did not think UCF was that great. And again, this was like a 30-3 type game. I think they scored a touchdown late to get in the double digits, UNC. So this was really, really, really ugly going up against a really bad UCF team. So, yeah, like you said, we knew they weren't going to be great, but it seems like the wheels are already falling off here. So definitely keep your eye on UNC too. This could get very ugly as well.
And then there were a couple thrillers too this week. Great slate of games. One of them was the Memphis comeback over Arkansas. Arkansas was controlling most of that game. A late turnover when they would really milk out the clock, or at least make it almost impossible for Memphis to get the ball back and score. And turnover, Memphis goes down, wins the game. Huge win for Memphis.
Yeah, and they're off to a 3-0 start, I think, or 4-0, 3-0. So we talk about these group of 5 teams like to shout them out, not in the big national media spotlight. So Memphis could be a team. They definitely have the offensive firepower. Their defense still is not that great. They looked like they were getting gashed. They tightened up late against Arkansas, but that's still an SEC team. Arkansas is not a top tier SEC team, as we know, but for a group of 5 team to win at home there, that was a big win for them. You're right, little fortune at the end there with the fumble. But the guy did punch it out, so it was a nice defensive play. But, yeah, that was a little game that went under the wire a little bit. That was a noon kick early in the day. Memphis getting that huge 1-point win as a 7-8 point dog. So look at them. They might be a group of 5 favorite there, and the Americans going to come down to a nice race here.
Yeah, could be an interesting race with them in South Florida and a few others towards the end of the season. And then also Friday night, Rutgers. Both once again on Rutgers. I jinxed us last week when I was touting how great we were during the week. This one looked like it was good. Rutgers took the lead. They were playing so good offensively through 3 quarters. Well, 2 quarters great. Third, the second half, the offense wasn't there. Rutgers was off to a fast start. They looked really good. It looks like it might be different. They did have a late lead, also 28-24 in the fourth quarter. But Iowa just found a way to keep scoring. I don't know. The Rutgers defense just really fell off the wheels, especially in the second half also. And Iowa gets a huge win on the road. Tough place, 38 total points there for the Iowa offense. Not sure I ever recall that for a Kirk Ferentz coach team.
Yeah, there was a ton of people on Rutgers, and it's just one of those where it's like you don't hear a lot from the other side. And then a lot of people are betting the over in this game too. I was seeing online. Could not believe my eyes. And you watch the first half and it almost got over in the first half alone. It was like 47, 48 and a half the total. There was a couple, I think there was a kick return to start the game from Iowa, which was crazy. So, but again, they did enough offensively. They looked a little bit better passing the ball. They still have that great run game. They ran it really good against Rutgers. Rutgers does struggle a lot to stop the run. So keep that in mind going into Big Ten play. But yeah, Iowa, got to give them credit. Like there are a lot of people were not on them. They sold them after that Iowa State performance, which was really terrible. But the last 2 weeks now is against UMass, and Rutgers defense is definitely not as good as it is in the past. But they eclipsed the 35-point mark last 2 games. So maybe they're starting to find a little something. Not saying they have to be electric, but Rutgers offense still, like you said, looks really good. They're kind of more an offensive team this year, which we highlighted. We were hot during the weekday. We gave out that bonus Rice play on Thursday night. I think we might have been undefeated going into this Rutgers game on Friday night, so it was sad to get the streak broken there, but got to give credit to Iowa there a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's going to be crazy. Iowa scoring over 30 points, not something I really thought I would see on the regular. So big win for them, and disappointing for Rutgers. Really a perfect chance there. Could not get it done. All right, so now that was kind of just some of the top lines. We'll get into a few of our game recaps. And then at the end of the show, we'll have our winner and losers, which is always a great segment every week that we do. So try to get this going here. First one, big noon, Fox, Texas Tech at Utah. I was on Utah, really shocking result on this one. Texas Tech really just controlling the game, winning 34-10 over Utah. This was at Utah as well. Biggest takeaway for me is I don't want to just completely shit on Utah, even though their offense was just horrendous, was not able to do anything. And it's kind of one of those things when, you look good 2-3 weeks, you don't play anybody. What really happens when you start to play competition? And this was definitely, something to look at. I was just really impressed with Texas Tech, though, really through 4 quarters. Offense wasn't, great, but in the second half, they kind of were able to open it up a little bit. Huge win for them. And I think this may just position themselves as one of the clear, front runners in the Big 12 here, getting this, big of a win.
Yeah, and not to be hyperbolic, but I watched a lot of games on Saturday, and Texas Tech honestly impressed me the most that day. They looked the best with all the, things going into the game. They're on the road at Utah, tough place to play, 10 a.m. start local time. They controlled it right from the tip. I mean, there was a ton of turnovers in the first half. I think there was 5 turnovers total in just the first half alone. So it was very back and forth, a lot of momentum swings, but they definitely were the side in this game. They looked really good, really impressive, especially on the defensive side. Now, like you said, Utah's offense got a little exposed because they didn't play a lot of great teams, but really held them in check. Utah just couldn't create any explosive plays. I think there was a stat later in the game that Texas Tech had 8 or 9, 10-plus yard plays, and Utah had 0 in like the third quarter. So when you're not even getting 10-plus chunk yard plays, that's really tough to do. They really struggled throwing the football. Texas Tech did a great job stopping the run on Utah. So really impressed with Texas Tech's defense. And during this game, the backup quarterback came in after Morton got knocked out there with a concussion or shoulder injury, I think it was. And the backup looked really good. He looked even better than Dampier looked on the Utah side. So to have your backup quarterback coming on the road, there was still a tight game until late in the game here, late in the fourth quarter. So really impressed by Texas Tech and what they did in the circumstances. Got to give them, they were definitely my most impressive team of the day. So really looked like they really took that next step, and Utah just not there yet. I think they're still going to be a very good team in the Big 12, considered, all things considered. But talking about a playoff team, maybe could win a playoff game, I just don't see it with Utah's offense. Texas Tech on the other side, I think they're legit. I think if they could keep their quarterback healthy, Morton coming back here, but their backup looked really good. He was spinning it really well. They have some good receivers on the outside. Defense looked really good. They invested a lot of money in a lot of transfer portal guys. So it seems like it's clicking early. So definitely keep your eye on Texas Tech here in the Big 12.
Yeah, Texas Tech, definitely one of the teams that catch us by surprise a little bit, at least for me. I don't think either of us had them on the preseason when we did our surprise or teams to look for. And this was a huge win. Not only was it on the road, Utah, which I think is still, a pretty solid team. Texas Tech's remaining schedule, and I know it's the Big 12. We always compare this as the, crazy March Madness type of conference. Anything could happen here, but their schedule is very favorable. They're probably going to be the favorite in every single game from here on out, unless, maybe BYU, they play BYU late. We're not really going to highlight them, but they got a big win. I'm sure we'll get to them later in the season here at some point, but they have a very favorable schedule. Arizona State, they have to go there. That's going to be a big game, but they're right on page to be in the college football playoff conversation at the end of the year, unless something really falls off the rails, which I really don't see happening. Even like a 10-2, if they're in the fight here at the end, this was a huge win for them to line themselves up for the season.
Yeah, no, we talked about just looking at their schedule too. Case like Kansas State was supposed to be good. Now that's going to be a down game. UCF's not that good. West Virginia's down, and Oklahoma State. We're not going to touch on them because they are dog shit. That was a very embarrassing performance against Tulsa. So if you're playing Oklahoma State, just chalk it up as a double-digit victory. That program is lost. So I'm with you. It's definitely favorable. The Big 12 is there for the taking, and I think Texas Tech really solidified themselves as a legit contender.
Yeah, and one of their harshest competitors too, we'll get to now here, TCU, huge win at home against SMU, 35-24. They did get the cover. I think we were also both on TCU here. Offensive pretty good. I will say, even though SMU didn't cover, I was kind of impressed with them here. Yep. They played really good, for almost the full game, 3 straight quarters. They almost got the cover. This was one of them I was kind of watching. I was doing a lot of things on Saturday, but it was just like, every time I would look at the score, TCU would score and then SMU would respond in a second. TCU would go back up 10, SMU responded. And I really thought, there was a chance that they could have pulled this one out. So credit to SMU, didn't really give them much of a chance, at least for me, but TCU got the job done. They've made their way into the top 25 now. I do think they're really good. I think them and Texas Tech is going to be 2 really good Big 12 teams to watch. But really good game here. SMU, wanted to shout at them, even though they're a little bit down didn't cover either. But I think TCU is really good. And this was a fun game to watch, but they do get the cover here late, 35-24.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was thinking. I was very impressed with SMU. They were within the number. I think they took the lead at one point outright in the third quarter, and then TCU definitely got some nice scores late to extend out of the number there. So, yeah, that was a very impressive road, keeping it close. Maybe could have got the cover, but, yeah, TCU just showing that mettle and just how good they are this year. They just kept grinding. It wasn't really working early with the offense. It was a little sputtery. It was definitely not the high-scoring affair I was thinking it was going to be. Definitely a little low scoring going into halftime, and then their offense kind of caught fire there in the third, fourth quarter. But yeah, I think they showed that even if they don't have their best, they could still squeak out a not squeak out, but do enough to win the game, and in this case, cover. So it was very impressive on both sides. Kind of walked away very impressed from both teams. Just love that quarterback for TCU, Hoover. He just feels so confident. And we're not going to get to Arizona State, but we mentioned them as one of my locks. Sam Levitt's another quarterback where I just love placing money on quarterbacks I could really count on. It feels like, back in the day when you used to bet on Breeze and Brady or, those guys, and you just felt so confident when the ball's in their hands. So Hoover, Sam Levitt, really good quarterbacks here in the Big 12. So you just feel very confident backing them. You always feel like you have a chance to maybe extend outside that number if you're laying some points. So honestly, yeah, like you said, very impressed with SMU. Their defense held up a lot better than I thought, and they made a lot of key offensive plays to score a couple touchdowns there. So honestly, both teams, applaud to both of them. It was a nice game to watch.
Yeah, and Josh Hoover, 379 yards and 5 touchdowns. There's another monstrous game by him. That TCU offense is, it's going to be legit. I think that's going to be fun to watch. I'd be stunned if they're not in the conversation here at the end in the college football playoff. They're going to be right there. Probably give them the edge over Texas Tech right now. They don't. I guess they avoid each other in the regular season, which is disappointment. But hey, maybe they'll end up meeting in a Big 12 championship game, which would be a lot of fun. I know I'm getting ahead of myself here, but two really good offenses to watch. And yeah, Josh Hoover, not a great completion percentage on Saturday, only completed about half his passes, but 379 yards, 5 touchdowns. So huge day for him.
Yeah, I just feel like the Big 12 might be like year to year. It's going to be 2 new teams playing the Big 12 championship. It seems like it's just going to keep flip-flopping. But, yeah, I would like to see TCU bouncing out a little bit with the run game. They were struggling to run the ball a little bit. They put a lot on Hoover and his arm with the pass attempts. And that defense, if they want to be, that complete team, they're going to need that defense to take another step up. But they did enough here to hold SMU under.
And moving on here to the SEC, this is one of those games that we kind of highlighted before or in our top lines with the cover here by Oklahoma, that safety. But yeah, Oklahoma wins the game 24-17 over Auburn. Low scoring game. Auburn was right there. They had chances here in this game. This was tied for a while. Oklahoma just does enough. John Mateer, they do enough offensively and defensively at the end of that game to not only win the game, but get the cover. Depends where you had it at. We got it at 7, but I know some of those lines were around 6.5. Huge win for Oklahoma, though. This was kind of one. I think if you're Auburn, you're really kicking yourself in the foot this morning. Just kind of got away from you, a chance to get a really big signature win on the road, beginning SEC play. But Oklahoma does what they need to do. Now they have the win over Michigan. They have the win over Auburn. They're really solidifying themselves as a top 10, top 15 team. And they do enough to get the win here, but it was close. And if you're Oklahoma, this definitely nerve-wracking game. Was back and forth by any means, was evenly matched, it seemed, for most of it. So shout out to Auburn there, but just not enough to get the win.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Auburn. I know we were both on their side, but they really hung tough and they did enough to win that game outright. But just those last couple drives, their offensive line just couldn't hold up, and Oklahoma kind of overwhelmed them a little bit. But looking at Auburn's schedule too, like they just don't get any favors. They got to go to Texas A&M next week, and then they host Georgia and Missouri back to back. So really would have been nice to get that one just to solidify, get a nice win there before you start getting into your schedule there. But no, Oklahoma, this game just looked different on the TV viewership. I feel like they talk about the SEC a lot, but you do watch these SEC games and they're just hitting harder. They're flying around. It's just more physical. It's really fun to watch if you're a true football fan. So it was definitely a dead nuts under game. It was very low scoring until the end. Very good defensive plays on both sides. Thought Auburn's defense we had a couple question marks about, but they looked very impressive. They looked very good and kind of held Mateer in check, didn't let him go crazy. Kind of was the offense at the end that kind of let them down there. So really fun game back and forth. Auburn took the lead with a nice touchdown. Then Oklahoma came right back and scored one of their own. So very exciting game. Just was like a true SEC physical. A lot of hard hits, there was a lot of paint on a lot of jerseys on a lot of the guys. It was just a fun game to watch from start to finish here. But again, I kind of walked away a little more impressed with Auburn here. I still think Oklahoma, is very, very talented and very good. Just maybe didn't live up to those, top 10 expectations, but it was impressive to see them do enough to get the win. That defense is so good. I mean, Venables got them playing super hard on that side of the ball. They were confusing Arnold a lot late in the game there. So I do feel like Oklahoma is probably in that top 4, top 5 discussion there in the SEC. And they got a big one coming up with Texas, where I just think overall, I think Oklahoma is better than Texas this year. Now, Texas looked better with Arch getting a nice win against Sam Houston State, whose defense is really terrible. So it's a nice confidence
Huge
booster.
matchup, yeah.
That'll be a huge game to watch. I don't think it's not this week, but I think next week in the Red River Showdown. So that'll kind of tell us, separate who really wants to take that next elite step there. But I think Oklahoma is really flirting with that team. So I do like Oklahoma going here in the future. But like we said, their schedule is so tough. So it's not going to be pretty, but you just got to kind of win these games like this, and it's going to take a toll on them. So let's see how they fare out a couple weeks from now.
Yeah, tough schedule for Oklahoma. They're certainly battle tested, and took a huge step since last year to Oklahoma. You could just see the way that they're playing. They look really good, and that game against Texas, I can't wait for that, because that definitely is a game I think that's winnable for Oklahoma. And that's a neutral site too, right? Paisley, they play that at the Cotton Bowl every year, so that will be fun to watch with Oklahoma. But big win. It's going to be tough for them. They have a tough schedule, like we say. A lot of these teams in the SEC do. So it's going to be a while before we really know who the clear-cut top front runner is. But nonetheless, they're in the conversation, and they're doing what they need to do. They're winning their games. They got tough ones. They really started out quick here. So we'll see if they can continue to play at this level and getting wins. But close one for Auburn, one that they definitely got let slip up a little bit, but nothing to hold their head down completely in the game late. And it's not quite Auburn's time. We knew that coming into the year. They weren't supposed to be top of the SEC. So tough draw for them, but still in the conversation. And that was, Auburn at Oklahoma. So now moving on to Michigan at Nebraska. This one, Saturday, 3:30, Paisley. I was on Nebraska. Thought they were finally going to get the win. Picked them as my underdog. The spread moved all the way to Nebraska. Was -1 at one point Saturday. I think then it flipped back to Michigan. So it almost ended up being a toss-up here at kickoff. I don't really have a lot to say on this other than it's just Nebraska's Nebraska. You had multiple chances to win the game. Their defense couldn't get the stops when they needed them. The first half, they were really getting beat. Somehow they got to the locker room with the game tied. Like, that's amazing with that Hail Mary. They just did not even look like they're lucky that happened. And then third and fourth quarter, just not enough to stop Michigan. Bryce Underwood didn't even have that great of a day. I think he threw like 100 yards passing only. They were just getting gashed. Same old. Nebraska could not get the win at home. I mean, you had a perfect opportunity, but wasn't able to get it done. Michigan wins the game 30-27. On the Michigan side, I don't really have a ton to say. I mean, I still think they're kind of a similar team that we thought they were. I don't think this win really means anything big for them. Big win, I guess, in Big Ten standings play, but I'm still not quite sure that they're going to be able to compete at the top with how Oregon and Ohio State and other teams are playing right now. So big win for them on the road. But nonetheless, I think the biggest takeaway here is just disappointing for Nebraska. Big opportunity, and they just weren't able to capitalize here and get the win.
Yeah, no, I think you broke it down very, very well. I think we highlighted some areas where we thought Michigan and Nebraska could both excel. And I just pulled up the box score here. It was kind of, we thought Nebraska's quick, short passing game would work against Michigan. They had 308 yards passing. Michigan only had 105. But then we did highlight Michigan would have a good day on the ground against that Nebraska defense, just a little light up front. They lost some guys to the NFL, and they rushed for 290, and Nebraska only rushed for 43 yards. So really just they went different ways about it. It was a very evenly matched game. A little misleading at the end. Like you said, they had the Hail Mary at the end of the half to tie it up, and then they kind of went down when they were down 10 points. Nebraska to score with about a minute left, 45 seconds. They were kind of just playing prevent defense. Michigan letting them chew some clock. So did feel like Michigan really controlled this game from the jump. But like you said, Nebraska just couldn't do enough to get that win. And this is why they haven't beaten a ranked team since 2017, I think it was, or 2016. Like, you got to make those plays. Like, they were just kind of waiting for Michigan to mess up a little bit, but they just couldn't make those key timely plays here to win a top 25 matchup. So it was kind of there for the taking, like you said, but they just couldn't grasp it enough. So got to give Michigan credit. Like you said, it wasn't completely blown away and thought Michigan was, 100% back now. It was kind of a little ugly on both sides, but they did do enough to win. So like you said, I don't know if they could be a top tier Big Ten team, but was definitely a very encouraging sign if you're a Michigan fan. They definitely let Underwood run a little more, which is something we did not see in the Oklahoma game. I think he had 70 or 80 yards rushing to go along with that big rushing total that they had as a team. So maybe that's more their style. They're going to be more run heavy with the quarterback involved in the run game, and then just maybe passing, if needed. But definitely felt their style of play. The defense held up okay. Michigan, they're not really that top tier defense like they had a couple of years ago. So it's going to be interesting to watch both these teams going forward. But yeah, Nebraska had the stands packed, had the crowd humming there. Would have been a nice one to take a nice victory there at home. But Michigan, got to give them credit. They did do enough to win on the road, which is something big and hard to do with a young quarterback in college football. So got to give Michigan credit there.
Yeah, they did control most of the game for sure. They looked like the better team. They were just running down Nebraska's throat. And Raiola too didn't have that bad of a day, like you said.
Yeah.
I mean, 308 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. It was just they weren't able to kind of get the stops when they needed, and when they needed to go down and score, their offense stalled. It was just they just weren't able to quite get over the hump. Michigan did a good job, running the ball, controlling the game, and pulling away, like you said, up by 10, and then Nebraska scored late to cut it to 3. But big win for Michigan. This is a game I think that a lot of people were on Nebraska, including myself, towards the end of it. A lot of momentum towards them. So Michigan kind of just doing what they did and getting the win. I'm trying to think. The Michigan, they did something similar last year. I think they beat USC maybe like week 4, week 5. Very similar style of a game. They were just able to run the ball. A lot of people, I think, were on like USC at the end of that. And then kind of the same thing here with Nebraska this weekend. So Michigan's just kind of one of those sneaky teams. You can never count them out. I mean, obviously, if you're an Ohio State fan, you know that, blowing many heavy favorite games to them. So always a tough game. Definitely well coached. Not saying Sherrone Moore is a great coach, but just all around, you could tell it was a good game by them, considering, like you said, young quarterback on the road, tough environment. And they just did a good enough job to win. So, like you said, don't think they'll be in the conversation at the end with the Big Ten. I mean, maybe, you never know. We'll see how it all plays out, but be stunned if they get there. But big win for them and missed opportunity for Nebraska.
Yeah, and then just lastly, Sherrone Moore still was not on the sidelines this game too, so still our guy. So
good point.
Be the head coach? I think so. I think they looked really good the last 2 games. Let's see if they go back to the training wheels offense and go more conservative once Moore gets back on the sidelines there. And like we talk about these late movements or these line movements in the betting markets, and doesn't always indicate a win. Like you said, this game never got up to 3. It was a little fishy, like we said, and then it actually kind of closed Nebraska as the favorite, which is crazy. And then we saw the game play out. So again, it's never 100% one way or another, but just watch these late moving lines. Doesn't always indicate the right thing, as we saw in this game.
Going to the SEC, South Carolina on the road here at Missouri. Lenore Sellers a little banged up. Missouri wins the game 29-20. They don't get the cover. I think we were both on Missouri here late. It's kind of going back and forth on this game. South Carolina didn't play bad, but Missouri just did enough once again to get the win. This was a competitive back and forth game really till the end, fourth quarter, and Missouri was able to pull away there at the end. Fun game to watch. Missouri offense is really electrifying. South Carolina did a good job though for 3/4 of this, kind of keeping the Missouri offense from scoring at will. They shut down Prabula at times, but Missouri just did enough to get the win. And now if you're South Carolina, you're sitting 0-2 here in the SEC play. Missouri, though, gets another big win for them, and they're sitting now at 4-0. And like I mentioned on last week's podcast, very favorable schedule, going to be interesting to watch. I thought maybe they could have done a little bit more in this. I'm not totally impressed with Missouri. I think we saw South Carolina stumble them up here a little bit. And like I said, this was a really close game till here the end in the fourth quarter. Good hard-fought game, but at least Missouri, they found a way to win, get the win to move to 4-0, 29-20 over South Carolina.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is another game where Missouri won outright, but kind of walked away a little more impressed with South Carolina. They really hung in there with their banged-up quarterback. Sellers played really good for having a concussion only 1 week prior, so he was hitting guys. He had some really nice plays. I thought they did enough. They just couldn't kind of bog down the red zone a little bit, and some of their drives was either boom or bust with moving the ball a lot, or it was a lot of 3 and out. So shout out our guy in the chats there, our South Carolina fan. They actually looked okay. They looked good. definitely did enough to win the game outright. And Missouri had 2 late scores here to push this to a a 2-possession win. But like you said, that Beau Pribula, man, he is electric to watch. Like, he is so quick. He's got a good enough arm, but he's definitely more a running quarterback. Really fits that scheme well and what they want to do. Running back I think he was from UL Monroe last year. Hardy is his last name. He is a tank. He is so good. So that run game is very dynamic. It's almost like a Vanderbilt. Like, if you could run the ball and be feisty and play enough defense, you could take down some of these top teams in the SEC. So Missouri is definitely a team to keep your eye on in the SEC with how they play, their style of play. Just got to keep Pribula healthy. He's a very, he's putting his head down to dive. He's, just running quarterbacks in general are just more susceptible to injuries. So that's going to be something I want to see with him in SEC play here. Can he stay healthy? And like John Mateer, some of these running quarterbacks here, Jackson Arnold, Sellers even, last week got injured. So you got to just be careful, watch your body here, because it is a long season. Because now they had those 2 quarterbacks going into the year, and they lost the one, I think, for the season to start. And that's why Pribula is playing so many minutes here. So, but yeah, he looks really impressive. It's a really fun offense to watch. He couldn't really get it going for the first half. They were really stuck in mud. I think it was like a 12-10 halftime score. So South Carolina did do a lot to shut them down, but then they did just kind of wear on them a little bit and pop a couple touchdowns late. But yeah, that Pribula, he's fun to watch, man. He's a fun quarterback, and Missouri definitely could be a team on the rise. And it looks like South Carolina's season a little rocky to start here. I don't know if they could save it with Sellers now being banged up, but they definitely did put up a good fight in this one.
Yeah, Missouri, they play UMass too next week, which will be an easy win for them. And then they have the bye to kind of rest up. So,
Okay.
If you have some injuries, if you have, Pribula, I'm not saying he's banged up. He's looked great, but he is taking some hits. I'm sure if you guys saw, he took that hit yesterday on Saturday against South Carolina where that targeting call looked like could have been a concussion, but
yeah,
I guess it
right
wasn't.
Back up, which was crazy.
Yeah. I saw that live. I thought he got smoked. And
I thought he was dead.
But he got right up. I mean, it was kind of got a little bit of a clip only, like from the shoulder when they showed the replay, but still a big hit. But yeah, so they have UMass, then they have the bye to rest up. Then they have the big one against Alabama on October 11th. So that might be game day for all I know. I mean, I don't know what it's competing with, but that should be a huge game. Obviously depends too with Alabama, with Georgia. We'll get to that later in the week. But Missouri's schedule favorable. Not saying it's easy. You have tough teams to play, but for an SEC schedule, they could really be right there at the end of the season. Moving on to Florida at Miami. This was college game day. Went back and forth on this one. Want to apologize to some of the listeners out there that I ended up putting Florida on my card. This was tough. If you listen to last week, I was very uncertain on this one. I thought Miami was better. We knew they were better. Florida is a dumpster fire right now. Lagway's terrible. Their coach should be fired. But I'm still not completely sold on Miami. I think Miami at some point this year, we're going to have a Miami moment. Maybe I'm living in the past. Maybe they're proving me wrong. I hope they are. Maybe this will be the year really for Miami. Who knows? I just thought that was a ton of points. It was game day. I thought Florida, they didn't get blown out in their games. They lost to LSU close. They had that horrible game against South Florida. Like, this is a team that really wasn't that many plays. For as bad as they have been, they weren't that many plays away from being possibly 3-0. I mean, especially the South Florida game. Not saying that's impressive. You need to beat them more handily. But nonetheless, I did think they were – I thought that was a lot of points. I think it was at 9 at one point. I think it went down to 7.5 or whatever. But Miami did enough for 3 quarters, though. Florida was in this game also later in the second half. But at the end, Miami did enough. They got the cover. They got the win. I think they moved up here to number 2 in the AP poll today. So going to be, the front runner, no doubt about it, in the ACC with Florida State for sure. Those two, they do enough to win. Florida, not sure where they go from here. Just you're sitting at 3 losses already. But Miami did enough to get the win and really just survive and can move on here.
No, I agree with a lot of points, Case. And this was definitely the most misleading final, I think, of the weekend, because this was not a 26-7 game. If you watch the game to the end, Miami scored 2 touchdowns with under 3 minutes left, I think, and one of them was off of Florida going for it 4th and 15 on their own 10, and then Miami punched it in, went for 2. It was just they were just trying to run it up there at the end, and it was legit 13-7 game, like you said, going late into the fourth quarter. So if you just watch the final, you're gonna be like, oh, yeah, another Florida game. But I agree. If you watch the whole game, I come away actually pretty impressed with Florida, except for DJ Lagway in the offense. They are still have a ton of problems. That defense plays hard, man. I mean, I took the under late in this game, and it was a dead nuts under game the whole way, super low scoring. They really had Carson Beck in some troubling situations. He had the first couple of balls this year where he was really put in harm's way. I think he did get picked off one time. So
Yeah.
I actually do agree with you too, Case. This was not a good look for Miami. It was a big win for them. A big win. They've been having Florida's number recently, maybe not in the whole 15, 20-year history recently, but this was definitely one where they were definitely showing some cracks in the armor. The defense held up most of the time, but like we said, Lagway, they might have to go to the backup here, switch up something offensively because this Florida offense is just struggling. But that defense plays hard, man. They play hard on defense. They really kept them in the game. They're fighting, even though they know their offense is not giving them anything. So really, really impressed. That Miami offense, super good on the offensive line. Beck still had a clean pocket and stuff, but the receivers were having trouble getting open. They couldn't really run the ball as effectively as they should. So I agree with you. That's definitely something to keep in mind with Miami going forward. Now, they had a couple big, games early on in the year, so maybe this was just a course of that with the Notre Dame game, USF. But this was definitely one where I was like, Miami definitely has shown a lot of cracks in the armor here where they're not that top 2-1 team in the country like I thought maybe they were. I think they'll have a lot of wins here in the ACC, but I'm with you. I think they can maybe slip up here with a trip, maybe on the road. They have a lot of these games at home and they're playing really well, but I'm with you. I thought they looked like maybe like the number 1 team in the country, but now I'm having my reservations after this one, even though they won, quote unquote, by almost 3 touchdowns. I was definitely not too impressed with Miami in this one.
Yeah, 13-7. Like I said, they just survived this game. They got out with the win. Not pretty. And yeah, they have that Florida State game coming up here in a couple weeks. I think it's October 4th, Miami and Florida State, which is why I was a little surprised game day went to Miami this past week I don't know if they're going to that game in 2 weeks. I mean, who knows? That all really doesn't mean a lot, but that's going to be a huge game, top 10. That'll be their next test. So really top or front schedule loaded here for Miami, and then things kind of open up. But yeah, I'm not sold. I think we've seen every team in the country so far has just kind of looked beatable at times. I mean, even Ohio State, they've looked fantastic. They have the win over Texas, but even that game was very ugly at times, low scoring, 14-7. I mean, come on, that's not a great football game. And we don't really know a lot yet about Texas. How good really they are. And we don't know a ton about Ohio State from anything on top of that. So a lot of, questions here to still be answered. Miami, I think, had a chance to solidify themselves as that elite program, but yeah, they just did not do it against Florida this week. Get the win. They, covered late, win's a win. It's important, and it's tough to win any game here in college football, but yeah, not extremely impressed for them. I think they're going to lose at some point this year. I don't know what it is. Even I'm not even counting the Florida State game. I think they're going to lose a game that they're supposed to win. I don't know which one it would be, but that would be my prediction.
No, I think that's a great point about all these top teams, Case. There's no one that's really unbeatable or super elite at both sides of the ball. And I thought Miami could have been that team, but I just didn't really see it in this one. And you look at some of these top teams like Ohio State, like you said, they could go into Washington this week. That's going to be an interesting one. They look good. Penn State has their struggles. We'll find out a lot about them in Oregon. Still not sold on Oregon. Georgia looked really bad on defense. LSU's having their struggles. So some of these top tier teams, like you said, just not really coming into form. So I thought Miami could maybe separate there, but I definitely have my reservations as well now.
One team, Paisley, that may have the argument for number 1 here, Indiana. Getting the massive win over a top 10 Illinois team, 63-10. You heard that right. 63-10. Indiana just really dominated this game. I think for maybe the first 10 minutes, this was close. It was 7-7. Illinois went down. They tied it. And after that, it was just all Indiana scoring at will. Dominant fast. We were both on Illinois. And this was another game. This was one of those spreads that we, just couldn't totally understand why Indiana was a 6-point, 5-point favorite. And it made me almost want to say, you know what, maybe that's saying it could be a blowout. Maybe at home we could see this coming. And I just couldn't do it. I just liked Illinois enough. I just gave too much faith in Luke Altmaier. Really disappointing game for them. I mean, I'm sure I can't imagine how they feel after that type of hype, and then just get absolutely rocked here on the road in Bloomington. But I don't want to focus too much on Illinois. I still think they're a solid team. We'll see how everything plays out, or Illinois. We'll see how it plays out for them the rest of the year. But this is really about Indiana. What a win. Their quarterback looks like the number 1 overall pick right now. I don't know if that's going to hold. They definitely have their flaws, but they just looked awesome. Anytime you just have a 5-point favorite and you win by 50 points, it really doesn't matter if these teams are ranked or not. Huge win for Indiana. They got to feel good. Doesn't get any easier. They have another big game coming up here in a couple weeks. I think they play USC actually just coming up. I'm sure we'll preview that. So that once again just gets even more interesting. That game's gonna be fun to watch. But big win for Signetti and everyone there. Really just a much kind of needed win for them. You got to feel good if you're Indiana coming off of last year too. Everybody kind of said, "Oh, you're overrated, your schedule, this and that," and just to come out with a statement win. Not sure it'll mean a lot at the end of the season, but huge win right now for Indiana, 63-10.
Yeah, no, I guess the 6.5, 7 wasn't enough. I guess we needed 53.5 in this one, but
needed 50.
Yeah, wow. This was, like you said, just a bad bet. It happens, I thought it was too many points. Like you said, just Indiana wiped the floor with them. They really played a flawless game from start to finish, just absolutely dominated. Definitely got to rethink about Illinois. This offensive line is just not good. Now, not to, say Indiana didn't deserve it, because obviously they did. But this offensive line returned all 5 starters. They can't run the ball. They can't pass protect. I'm not sure what they're doing. Omar had no time to throw. He was under duress the whole game. Got to give credit to that Indiana D-line, though. They are ridiculous. They are really, really good. I think that's a unit that definitely could be at the tops in the country. But like you said here, Case, now that we're getting into conference play, and with these conferences expanding so much, and with now all these good teams in it, both teams, Illinois now got to turn right around and host USC, who just is putting up 50 points a game. And Indiana has to go on the road to Iowa this week at 3:30. So that's not going to be an easy one either. So it's now you're really going to start stacking these tough wins. So like Indiana last year, they had a very soft schedule. So if you had a big game, you had a couple weak ones in between. Now you're going bang, bang, bang. Like now you got Iowa, you have Oregon, you have a bye, and then Oregon at Oregon. So I do like Indiana. They looked very impressive win here. But their schedule does get a little tough. They go to Penn State late in the year as well. So can they win some of these big games? The Iowa game is going to be a big one here. Can they bounce back? So this will be a week now that we're starting to get into some of these bigger games. Can these teams, recover and bounce back quickly like Illinois, or can they keep this momentum going like Indiana, or are they going to be a little hungover going now to a tough place to play in Iowa after such an emotional big prime time? Like they said, Indiana never hosted a night game prime time like this, maybe ever. So how are these teams going to respond now that we got our data points, we got how they looked? I'm very, very interested to see what Indiana does at Iowa. I'm kind of out on Illinois now. I think they're not that good. I think they'll lose again here to USC this week. That line already moved 5 or 6 points off the open. So going to be interesting now to see how these teams respond here going forward after some of these big primetime games.
Yeah, no, yeah, good flag. Yeah, it's Illinois that plays USC, not Indiana. And yeah, they play Iowa. So gonna be fun to watch. And yeah, I'm definitely selling some of that Illinois stock. I did say I'd be disappointed in both these teams. I think I could now maybe say Illinois will be the disappointing team after that performance. That was just abysmal. And yeah, they do play Southern Cal. I'm not sure. I can't see them winning that game. And it doesn't get any easier for them either. Then they go to Purdue, which who knows, but then they play Ohio State, Washington. Rutgers, we saw Friday night, their offense is good. So, got to be tough here for Illinois. I hope they can bounce back. I really liked what they were doing, but clearly something's going on there, just in all phases of the game. Like you said, just getting pushed around up front, not able to give Allmeyer time, just couldn't move the ball. And the Indiana offense was just able to score just really at will in that game. So, you got to be a little bit disappointed if you're Illinois, but yeah, Indiana, things are going to get interesting for them if they could get another big win versus Iowa. And like you said, they got to play Penn State later in the season. Who knows? That could end up being like a top 15, top 10 matchup for how things all shake out here in conference. But gonna be crazy. And yeah, like you said, I can't recall a time where Indiana had a chance to play in primetime college football. Get that spotlight here, NBC in primetime. So. Big win for them, but yeah, it's not over yet. Still got a full season ahead of us. It's going to be week in, week out, and see if they could really compete here in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think Big Ten and SEC are very similar, where there's these middle crop of teams are very good. So it's like you're just not going to get a lot of breathers week in and week out. So it's going to be really fun. Now we're getting into some really fun games here in the middle part of the season.
Also, I don't want to completely just shit on Western Illinois, but man, how bad could they be? Illinois beat them 52-3. I mean, wow. And then Indiana goes and wins 63-10. Maybe I think, wow, Western Illinois. I got to look into that. They may be a really bad team over there.
That's a good call. That's a good call.
All right, moving on to the fans' favorite segment of the week. We're going a little long here for our weekly recaps, but winner and loser of the week. I'll just go first. Winner, because it just leads right into it. My winner of the week's Indiana. A huge win, blowout win. There were, not their biggest signature win by any means. It's just a win over Illinois, but just the fashion they did it, the storyline for Signetti coming off of last year. We weren't sure really how these teams would be. It's a big win. You got to celebrate the week. Not saying it's going to be a celebrate the season type of thing, but they won the week. Just the score, the prime time slot. They did everything they needed to do times 100. Not sure anybody could beat them out. For me, they were the clear-cut winner. Paisley, who's your winner?
No, it's a great pick. They really, really impressed. And we were both on Illinois, so that's something that we were that impressed with Indiana. And my winner, I'm going to go Kennesaw State Owls, actually. They got a big win, had them on the card. 4 or 5 point underdogs, got the win outright against Arkansas State. I'm showing them out for this fact that because I remember they're one of the newer teams that came to the Division I ranks, I think 2 or 3 years ago, and they were a mess and they were so bad. And they got that win last year against Liberty late in the year, if anybody remembers, on like a Thursday. And their win total last year was 1.5, I think, if I remember correctly. So now this team, they're stacking a couple wins. They got a win, I think, against Merrimack or an FCS school last week. Got another win here. This team is now starting to learn to win a little. And now we don't think Wake Forest is that great, but they actually played Wake Forest to a 10-9, should have won that game week 1. So, in a Conference USA that is really down this year, Liberty does not look like the team to beat, who was the clear-cut favorite in the preseason. So that is wide open. I was looking at their schedule because Conference USA is so down. Not that they're going to win it, but I think Kennesaw State could be a team that could really outperform some of these preseason expectations. And you got to give a team credit, and a little shout out to Delaware too. Got another big win. We were both on FIU, but these teams coming into the Division I ranks here, it's a very tough transition, but for them to hit the ground running and get some of these wins here, really got to respect that this early, and especially with all the transferring and everything going on. So Kennesaw State in year 2 or 3, getting a couple wins here, probably doubling their win total from last year already. Look out for the Owls down there in Kennesaw State.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I mean, I'd love to see Kennesaw State. I was going to say, I couldn't remember what year this is on their program. I guess if it's just year 2 or year 3, maybe max, but
either 2 or 3.
Yeah.
They just beat Arkansas State, who actually almost beat Iowa State the week before. They really should have won that game. Got screwed by the refs. So shout out the Owls, baby.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Good. That's a good under the radar winner, Mr. Paisley. Kennesaw State. Big shout out to them. I'll go with my loser now. Sticking in the Big Ten. I'm throwing Matt Rule back on loser of the week. You had an opportunity. I don't want to look. It wasn't that crazy. A lot of people saw it coming. Millions of people probably. It was around the spread mark, even though they got beat really for 4 straight quarters. But you have an opportunity, Paisley. How many? Just to hit a grand slam. You have the pitch is coming. It's a fastball right down the middle. You're eyeing Michigan. This is like year 4 now in the Matt Rule experiment. Like, what are we doing?
3 or 4. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got to at some point get over the hump. And it was so perfect of a chance for them. You're at home. Michigan's a little down. Nebraska's supposed to be better. You get through Cincinnati. You do what you need to do. Wasn't pretty, but you have a perfect chance. And what should have been an evenly matched game, in my opinion, you should have won this game. You got to win this game if you're Nebraska. This is just another big setback, another just absolute, stabbing in the chest of the Nebraska fan base here for another loss like this. Because where does it go from here? I mean, you're already now staring down probably 2 or 3 losses. You're clearly not quite as good as I thought you could have been. Maybe they still have a successful year. Maybe they could still get to 9 wins just for how weak their schedule is. But where does that even go moving forward? I at some point, it's got to turn around. And it just doesn't look like it's going to be the year now. I don't want to completely write it off. It's a 3-point loss. Look, but opportunity like this doesn't come often. And if you can't get it done when you just need to get it done, I think I saw like a stat. I don't know if it's right. It was like 0-25 against like top 25 teams or something crazy. maybe, I don't know. That sounds crazy. Maybe it's not 25, but it's like 0-15 or something against top 25 teams if you're Nebraska. At some point, you got to break through. And if you're Matt Rule, this one just got away from you. Similar to how I said Auburn had a chance to win and make a big statement win, got away from you. Same thing for Nebraska, but times 100 here. Big opportunity, failed to do so.
Yeah, no, I think that stat was against top 25 teams in the last like 10 years, maybe not like all time, but they're just over. Yeah, they just can't even get a win, like not even beating like the 24th or 25th best team. Like it's just tough. And like you said, you want to see those steps, you want to see the progression. They had everything at home, the crowd was rocking. They got their 5-star quarterback in the second year of the system. Like a lot of things were going their way. A lot of people bet on them. So it's like they had a lot of support. And we have our fans of our own team. I can't imagine what it's like to be a Nebraska fan. Like it's just, this has been our whole lives. They just couldn't break through and get to this, even top 25 status. They can't even get to that. It's like, that must be so frustrating. This seems like it's been going on for 10, 15 years.
Yeah, and I do have the stat here. It's Nebraska, 28 consecutive losses against teams ranked in the top 25, going back to 2016 against number 22 Oregon. Yeah, so 0 for 28 in their last 28 matchups going back to 2016. That's unbelievable. But
yeah, it's not just top 5 teams or top 10. It's
top 25.
But yeah, and then just a transition to my loser of the week, also another one that taking the low-hanging fruit, but I'm going to go Dabo Swinney in general, not just the Clemson program. Dabo, I hate his rants that he goes on these last couple of years. He's becoming like so pissy and an old man, and he freaked out last week. He's like, if they don't want me here, just fire me. It's like, dude, are you just saying that to like your administration? Like, do you even want to be here? And you do that, and I get like, okay, maybe you're trying to drum up the team or do that, and then you absolutely lay an egg. Like, this is bad. The team looks sloppy too. We forgot to mention this in the breakdown, but they had 3 or 2 roughing the passer calls on the same drive, and then they had a targeting. The guy launched himself. Like, they are playing so like just off the cuff. They are pissed off. They're loose. They're not playing tightened up, buttoned up football here, and it's really just spilling over with a lot of unsportsmanlike penalties. They look a mess. They just look an absolute mess. Dabo has no control over this team, so he's going to probably throw another fit in the media this week and stuff. But just don't like what I'm seeing out of Dabo Swinney and throwing these fits in the media and then coming out looking like that. You can't be doing that. So just really bad. And someone said it last year. They kind of got a little fortunate last year. People don't want to admit it because they just saw that they put up a good fight against Texas. But the way they got into the AC championship was because Miami lost to Syracuse on that last game of the year when they shouldn't have. And then SMU kind of outplayed them the whole game, and they hit a 56-yard field goal or something at the end to win that and go to the playoff and win the ACC. So they said something if you take like the last like 8 or 9 games going back to last year, started this year, Clemson's like a 500 team or below 500. So it's a really, really interesting spot. If you take a look at everything going on in Clemson, that should be a power top 5, at least top 10 program with all the resources, money, coaching staff, 5-star kids coming in. So very, very shocking to see where that program's at currently.
Yeah, big loser, Dabo Swinney. Absolutely, yeah, disgraceful here how he's handling their start of the season. And I don't know, Paisley, if you had to say, I feel like out of the biggest storylines so far this season, I mean, take the first month, I guess, of college football, I guess that would be the number one story. It's just their regret. Yeah. I mean, they were supposed to be, I don't know what it was, but what, 4th, 5th, or maybe 3rd? They were right there in the top 25. Yeah. And wow, I mean, just completely regressed to the point where you're losing to Syracuse, the way he's handling the media. Like I was hammering Caleb DeBoer week 1 after the Florida State game, but Dabo Swinney is that, even more so right now, just unhinged.
Yeah, 1-3 to start the year. It's crazy. They have 3 losses already. Like, it's just crazy to think to these teams that they have. So it's LSU didn't look that great. Now going forward, like, how does that win look? So a lot of still question marks going on there. But yeah, I just hate the way Dabo's handled. He's really pissing me off. And I can't imagine if I'm a fan of that program or a booster that I'd really want to support that guy. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him.
Maybe he'll be the next head coach at Florida Gators here coming up next year.
Eventually.
All right. Well, folks, we appreciate everyone tuning in, listening on this Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, whatever day you're watching, listen. Also appreciate if you could subscribe, follow us, like the page, let us know you're watching. We track the views. We appreciate all the listeners out there. And per usual, we will be back here later in the week, either Wednesday, Thursday, might be Thursday this week. We'll get the week 5 preview, a ton of great matchups we'll get to later in the week. But yeah, other than that, it was another successful week of college football, and we'll see everybody again later in the week.